within your business.
Yeah.
If the demographic is all one demographic, they normally know the same people. So it applies when it's a group of straight white guys. If they refer people, they're going to refer straight white guys. If it's a group of Italian Spanish people, they're going to refer Italian Spanish people. If you've got a more diverse workforce, which usually at the lower level in the business they tend to, that's where more of the diversity sits, you need to also be getting referrals and recommendations, but across the entire business, so you're cutting across as many demographics as possible, so you're not getting the same people referred or recommended.
Absolutely.
So that's also really important too.
I think also just, I'm aware of time, and I've kept you for quite a long time, so sorry about that.
That's okay.
But just to sort of, I suppose, just to finish off, I'm curious to know, you said earlier about setting the scene for the employee experience, and just talking now about what Pret a Manger did as well with, only ever recruiting and just getting the same person in all the time. I think a big issue in fashion at the moment is that they've now decided that they would, and had the wake-up call and thinking, we need to actually do something about changing our house, rather than just, putting diverse models in campaigns and stuff like that. So I suppose what I'm curious to know from you is with all of these companies who are thinking we need to do something about our workforce and ensuring that we have diversity and inclusivity within our workforce, but simply don't know necessarily where to start. What would be your advice as being the first place to start?
In terms of recruiting talent, or are you talking about the onboarding?
I think in terms of recruiting talent, because I think in terms of recruiting talent initially, when companies are literally looking internally and thinking, we have a lot to do, we have a huge amount to do, but where do we start?
Oh gosh, that's a big question.
Sorry. And that's why I finished on it.
Okay.
Could have started with it.
So, what would I say? They want to hire to this. I would say it does come down to an inclusive recruitment process, right? And that's two things to this. The first thing is you have to build a supply of diverse talent that applies to the job.
Yeah.
The second thing is then running an inclusive process to ensure those candidates get a fair chance to get the job.
Yeah.
They're two very separate things. Finding the diverse talent and then getting them through the process to get the job. Because what you'll find in some companies, I'm sure there's research out there if you Google it, where companies might attract diverse talent, but they're not getting through the process, so they're dropping off at certain parts, be it interview stage, psychometric assessment, wherever it is they might need to do, and they're not getting through the process. So you kind of need to do both. So the key thing I would say is, are they really clear about what it is they're looking for? Have they identified all the stakeholders that are included in the process? Because they all need to be clear on what it is they're all looking for. Then they need to decide how they're assessing that talent for the job, right? So with the assessment criteria, are they going to do strength-based, competency-based? Are there going to be any other kind of tests or case studies or things they have to do? Because that assessment has to be consistent across all the candidates. So if you're going to have like a set list of questions, just make sure that all the stakeholders are asking the same question.
Yeah.
What you're trying to do here is you're trying to mitigate bias through that process. So making sure, for instance, that when you're collecting that feedback from the different stakeholders for that hire, that the feedback is related to the assessment criteria.
Yeah.
You can't have someone saying, she's not a cultural fit, or I'm not sure she's got the right experience, or whatever. You're like, well, how are you assessing cultural fit? And give me feedback based on the questions you already set, or the assessment you already set. So what you're trying to do is minimize something called affinity bias.
Okay.
Affinity bias is when someone looks like you, maybe went to the same school, you grew up in the same area, and that's something that happens a lot.
Yeah. And
I imagine it happens a lot in fashion because it's so incestuous. And oh my God, they work together at Condé Nast, she must be really good, so let's hire her.
Yeah.
Like that former Vogue editor, he was like, I just didn't see race. I was like, you clearly fucking did, because everyone was fucking white in your team.
Yeah. Alexandra Shulman.
You know what I mean? And you just constantly kept digging yourself into a hole. I remember that interview with the Guardian shit. I was like, oh my God, seriously, just retire already. Anyway, so that's really important. That is what I've outlined here are steps that are a process. That is a process.